and a lot of people have been asking him about how he feels about his first loss. He's not taking that well, so I feel like he's motivated, and I feel like he's gonna probably win TKO, probably first or second round.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with Malik and Hollister. Unfortunately, Tyron can't make it today, but this is going to be a quick one. We're mainly going to focus on the UFC 230, 260, cards, the top three fights. We'll get into that in a moment. Just a quick shout out. We probably mention this tomorrow with our reaction video in regards to what happened with the fights tonight. Shout out to the Brooklyn Nets. They just signed LaMarcus Aldridge in the buyout market. So now it's pretty much like heading in the direction of them being the definitive winners. But like I said, nothing's written in stone. There was many teams that had like star players based on name, but they couldn't really gel together. Even though we do see the Brooklyn Nets really kind of gelling together, even though Katie's hurt, a little bit of suspicion for me is like, is Katie really super hurt? That's why they're making these like insurance policies where we have these other guys, or is it something that they just figured that we just ramp it up, get these other guys in here, like my brother said earlier, like just like have like a backup, so when he does come back, you don't have to play him as many games. So play him at the 4 against other bigs around that size, so he can kind of rest. So we'll see. Hopefully the Nets win this year. It looks like it's promising. Hopefully they win, but let's get right. One more thing, Ennis Cantor is very funny. So Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted like, "Yo, the Nets got one more, roster spot, and who else they can get in the buyout market." And Ennis Cantor put Thanos or maybe Jesus. It's like he's such a troll all the time. Like, got something smart to say, and like in my fantasy basketball league, I got a lot of people hating on the situation. I got some Lakers fans hating because they didn't get the pieces that they thought it was going to be, and our people ain't really trying to just do the whole LeBron, coattail thing, because like they said all the time, no disrespect to LeBron, he's a great player. But anytime the team doesn't have success, it's everybody else's fault except LeBron. When the team has success, it's LeBron's is because of LeBron. So you take on that kind of like, criticism as well as that whole situation. So it's just funny to me. But as I said, we're focusing on the fight tonight. This might not be a long one, pause, because like I said, we just talking about the top three fights of the card, and we're just going to give our predictions, and then we'll speak more tomorrow. So I'm not going to start. I'm going to let Hollister go to Malik, then I'll say my opinion. But the first three cards, the first three fights, obviously we have the main event, which is Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic for the UFC heavyweight title. We have for the co-main event, because the Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega fell through because Volkanovski has corona, so he's not able to participate. So that fight is canned for now. We have Vincente Luque versus Tom Woodley. This is a big fight for T Wood, so we'll see. And then we have Sugar Show on Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida, which is the part of the headline of the third fight of the main event. So they're not the third to the last fight to the main event. So yes, those are the three fights. So Hollister, you can give me your opinions on those fights, your predictions, what you think is going to happen, and Malik, and then I'll do the same.
All right, so first up, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. I'm gonna go with my guy Sean O'Malley, coming back from his injury. He has a lot to prove. A lot of people doubting him. I know the foot injury is a serious thing, and a lot of people have been asking him about how he feels about his first loss. He's not taking that well, so I feel like he's motivated, and I feel like he's gonna probably win TKO, probably first or second round. Second fight, the Tyron Woodley versus Vincente Luque. I'm gonna go with Tyron Woodley. He's been doubted a lot lately, and I feel like he's using that as motivation. Hopefully, he has leverage, and I hope he wins. I will say this one would probably. I will say I got Woodley probably in a decision. So now, hope that So for the main event, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. I'm gonna go with the champ on this one. After watching the first fight a couple days ago, Stipe Miocic is a tough son of a SOB. He's a tough guy. He's very skilled. He knows how to. He could take hits from anybody. He see in the first fight, and Ngannou hit him a couple times. He ate all of those shots. It bothered him. A few of them caught him good and bothered him, but he still came back and won. He took the fight to the ground. I think he might eventually do that again. I would love for Francis to win, but I feel like Stipe is gonna do the same thing, like take him down, wrestle him to the ground, and probably win by decision again. So let's see what happens. So I got Sean O'Malley, Tyron Woodley, and Stipe winning tonight.
Okay, Menelik.
All right, so first fight, Sugar Shane O'Malley versus, Almeida. So in this, I'm going with O'Malley as well. So he's coming off that loss to Marlon Chito Vera. He was the big prospect. He was undefeated. He went out there and Vera attacked his legs, kind of similar to what happened to Conor, but not exactly because Conor didn't get a serious injury, but that ended up having the whole ankle thing happen. And I think he's going to be prepared for that because I think he knows that someone's going to come and try to attack his legs. So I think he's going to make adjustments. He has the length. He has good kicks. So if he uses his range with his length, and he's shown that he has knockout power at his size and in that division. So I do think he's going to bounce back. Like Hollister said, I think he's motivated. I think he it's still my time. He don't, yeah, he lost, but I know he don't really feel like it's a loss because he feel like because of the injury is the only reason why he lost. I think he has something to prove. And, Ahmed is a good guy. He has some experience and stuff like that. But I think O'Malley's going to come out there with something to prove and get it done. Like I said, my only concern is if the leg injury stuff is either in his head and he's a little tentative, or if he gets his legs attacked and then he kind of gets in a situation where he can't really move or he can't use his tools. So, but I'm going with O'Malley. And the next fight with Tyron Woodley and Vicente Luque. So, Woodley is coming off 3 losses, right? So everyone is like, he washed, he finished this and that and the third. But one thing I would say is that look who he lost to. Like, he lost to the champ, the guy who's now about to fight, who the number 1 contender, and then another guy who's in the mix for contention, and Colby Covington. The top other people in the division is who he lost to. So no knock to Luque because he's still in the top 10, but he is a step down on some level of competition. One, right? I do think Woodley does have something to prove, and outside of, I mean, in the Covington one, he got beat a little more handily, but even in the Usman fight, Usman kind of just showed he was better. I feel like in the Burns fight, he had some moments he was just too tentative, and so I'm gonna go with Woodley. I do think he's gonna refocus and get the job done, especially with somewhat of a step down in competition. And once again, no nod to Luque. Like I said, he is a threat. I could see him doing something, but I'm going to go with Woodley. I think he's going to have his head more in the game, especially without the history he had with Covington or some other fighters, or it being as much pressure in a certain sense. So I'm going to go with Woodley on this one. And then for the main event, Stipe versus Ngannou. So, this one, man, it's tough. It's like one of those things where, if I was a betting man, right, and I had no choice, I would say that I would lean towards Stipe because I think he has more ways he can win. Whereas with Ngannou, right, the man has insane power. He has the hardest recorded punch, ever. So it's that's real serious power. If he hits you clean, you out. It's over, right? And like Hollister said, Stipe chin is pretty good. He did get caught with 2 or 3 good shots in that first fight, but it wasn't fully clean, like how he caught Rosenstrike recently and some of the other ones. So I think he can finish Stipe, but I think he would have to get it done within at least probably the first 2 rounds. Now, also, I know Ngannou after the first fight, he probably went. He worked on his wrestling, like he said. He's worked on his conditioning, but because he's been just decimating people, we haven't gotten to see it. It's he beating people 20 seconds, a minute here, a minute there. So we haven't seen him go to those championship rounds. So that's my only other concern, is why I think if it goes to a decision, I think Stipe with his experience, with his he's very well rounded. Like he doesn't have too many weaknesses. You know, like before people were saying he was kind of slow. He lost some weight. He a little faster now. He's gotten better since the last fight. And Ngannou has also gotten better since the last fight. I think people are underestimating probably how much better Ngannou has gotten. My only thing is that, you know, he really did use his wrestling to a good advantage against Ngannou in the first fight. And if Ngannou's conditioning and wrestling didn't really improve, then I see Stipe being able to make adjustments, or like once Ngannou kind of tires out, try to get out another decision. But I do think it's Ngannou's time. I think he's hungry. I think he wants it. I think, you know, and look, he always has a shot in any fight that he's in. So I know it's kind of like a little both sides. Like I said, if it goes to a decision, I would think Stipe is going to win. But I do think Ngannou is going to catch him with something and become the new champion. So I'm going with Ngannou, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stipe won. All right, yeah. So just real quick, one other thing I would just add is, like, as far as Woodley, I forgot to mention too. I think too the other people he lost to were, you know, good wrestlers, like really good wrestlers, and I think that Luque is more of a guy who will more so focus on the striking against him, and I think that'll play somewhat into Woodley as well, because Woodley is a good wrestler. Lately, you know, he has been a little more reliant on his right hand, but he's a very good wrestler, and he's not going to have to worry as much about that kind of wrestling style fight against him. So maybe he'll be a little freer to let go as well.
You know, wrestling is key in these fights. I noticed that lately. A lot of people, they go for the wrestling is over.
Yeah, like a lot of people, yeah, they just try to control and do whatever with the wrestling, and so we should see how that goes. Yeah.
Okay, that's all great picks. I mean, I think we pretty much gonna go down the line the same way. With the Sugar Show, you know, I like him as a fighter. I mean, I really didn't like the way he didn't take that his last loss. I mean, you know, I'm not a fighter. You know what I mean? So I understand how some of these guys will, you know, like to psych themselves out. And he felt like, look, I didn't really lose to him. He wasn't really hurting me. He wasn't really better than me. But, you know, I had a freak accident with drop foot, and that's what caused my defeat. At the end of the day, you still took that L. And I feel that if he would accept that, maybe it could have been different. But like I said, we don't know. I mean, the Thomas Almeida guy, I think I've seen him fight a couple of times. He's not a bad fighter. He's pretty good. I think he has a decent ground game. He's like the kickbox, doing the same thing. But I do think because of Sugar Show's like size and his skill set, I think he might make this fight a little bit more interesting. And I do kind of lean towards him winning. I don't think it's going to be like a one punch type of knockout thing, but maybe something. Yeah. So, you know, as far as like, you know, maybe a decision, I don't think he's going to knock him out. I mean, he does have the potential to knock him out. You know, he does have like some crafty knockouts, and he's very like, you know, unique as far as his striking style and as far as Sugar Show. So I'm going to lean towards that. I think it might be a decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. It could be a submission, but if it's a submission, I think it'll be Thomas. But I think it's gonna go to Sugar. As far as the Vicente Luque versus Tyron Woodley, this one is a really big fight. Tyron Woodley is 38 years old, going to be 39 probably. He's like the part of the old guard. They always have, you know, seasonal, like generational guys who came from certain organization. Like when Rampage, like who was one of my favorite fighters, he came from Pride and he joined the UFC. He became a champion, but, you know, he lost to John Jones, and he's been, you know, struggling ever since. He went to Bellator a couple of times. He got fat now and he's losing weight now, but it's like that was that phase when the sport was very young, and all the guys from Japan came into the UFC, and then now the UFC brought up Strikeforce and brought those guys over, and that was part of like how we got DC, how we got Alistair, how we got Ronda, how we got you know Cyborg, how we got a lot of these guys, you know what I mean, from that organization that came over, and Tyron actually stood the test of time and you know did his thing. Like, but to Malik's point, he lost 3 in a row. You know, usually UFC cut you after 3, but it's like he lost to championship guys. He lost to his belt to Usman. He lost to Gilbert Burns, who was the #1 contender who got washed by Usman, and he lost to Kobe Covington, who's like arguably one of the top guys in the division. So I watched a lot of the embedded and, you know, some of the like interviews with Tyron and stuff like that, and he was saying that, you know, he was not pulling the trigger. He was just kind of like in a lull. Like, you know, it happens to some people. Like when you get to that pinnacle of being a champ and you have all these opportunities that are handed to you. He was doing commentary, he was in movies, he was doing rapping albums, you know, rapping with like artists and stuff like that. Like his focus wasn't solely on fighting anymore. And he was trying to prove everybody wrong that he could do all these different things. But I think that, you know, he wasn't pushing himself in that level. And he said mentally he got back to it because look, when he fought Usman didn't finish him. When he fought Gilbert didn't finish him. The only person who got a technical finish on him was Kobe because Kobe snapped up his rib. You know what I'm saying? And even with that fight, Kobe was kind of shook going into that fight. It was mentally like he was just being tentative and was not fighting. So hopefully he fixes that problem and he comes out there like how he did with Darren Till. And he wanted to prove a point that, yo, these guys trying to, like, you know, write me off. And hopefully he comes in there and wins. I do want to say I want Tyron to win, and I'm hoping that he wins, and I'm rooting for him. But there's a part of me that feels like I have to see it to believe it. I kind of feel that he does this sometimes where he talks this thing up and then you feel you on his side, and then when he gets out there he kind of like, you know, not producing or performing the way it is. I don't know if because of age, I don't know if because, like, you know, the guys are just that good. It's a series of things, and I feel that he has no choice but to win, and hopefully he does win this fight. And so with Tyron, man, it's like I just want him to be successful. You know what I mean? I felt that, you know, he would have beat Usman. I felt that, you know, he could have got a rematch. Let's be honest, unless he go out there and like smoke this cat Vincente, I'm talking about like do almost like an Ngannou type of knockout to him and like really like get on a tear. I don't really see him getting that belt back or getting into the top, you know, ranks again. I do feel that he has to win this fight definitively. No ambiguity, no like kind of like split decision. He has to go out there and put in that work for the UFC to be like, you know what, Tyron, we can still utilize this guy. Because let's be honest, it's a business. They're trying to get younger. They're going to move on from him. And they use people like Tyron Woodley and like Derek Brunson and those guys like that to kind of like catapult younger talent and catapult different people, because the common fan who's not like avid like MMA fan will know these guys based on the fact of who they fighting. Like, oh, Vincente Luque, I don't really know him, but I know Tyron Woodley, so I'm gonna pick up the fight. So now we get eyes on Vincente, especially if he dominates. So we'll see what happens, but I'm rooting for Tyron in that one. Now, Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. I have the similar sentiment like Menelik. I like both guys. I really do think Stipe is a great fighter, actually, one of the best to ever do it. I do like him as a person. I don't know the man, but as far as like his character, the man's a fireman, you know what I mean, as well as a fighter. You know, he's very like funny, sometimes corny and cheesy, but he's very easygoing type of guy. You know what I mean? He was the first chip to Cleveland, you know what I mean, to Ohio, to Cleveland, you know what I mean, in a long time, until even before LeBron and them, son. I mean, we don't talk about the Indians, you know, they trash, but
Really?
you know, at the end of the day, the man is a good guy, you know what I'm saying? However, I also like Francis Ngannou, like his whole story of like how he came to the UFC, like how he had to, you know, migrate to freaking Paris by sneaking out of his country and like and doing all this kind of like backhand things and swallowing money and pooping it out and, you know, being homeless in Paris, France, just to try to make an end meet because he was tired of working in the sand mines and being treated, you know, as like scum of the earth in his home country of Cameroon because he didn't have a means, where you have friends who had parents who had money. It was just like it really shows you a lot. You know, we don't really get to see. I mean, a lot of times they only show us a poor side of Africa. We don't get to see the wealthy side of Africa, obviously, but to see where he came from and him being of poor means and not be able to make it and finding a way to make it, told his parents, like, y'all might not even see them again and just leave without telling them, because he just knew he had to find a better way to provide for his family. And his story is so incredible. And it'll be nice to see 3 African, you know, I mean, title holders. We have Adesanya, we have Kamaru, and then we'll have, if Ngannou wins tonight, a 3rd African champion, especially in the heavyweight division. And I want Francis to win, to be honest with you. You know, you just look at him as far, and I think the UFC does too, because even the first fight, they was promoting him back then. You know, Black Panther came out and everybody was promoting him. You look at Ngannou, he looks the part. Ngannou is a big, massive dude. He's 6'4", 200 and something, 60 something pounds, probably more in off season, and just looks solid like a freaking brick. You know what I'm saying? And like, he not like fat like some of the other champions. Like, he's like jacked, and to have that kind of like massive presence, that's like what you want in regards to like a heavyweight champ. So I feel that the UFC would love that. And I know they did have issues dealing with Stipe, but I don't know. Like Malik said, is like that first fight, you know, Stipe fought the perfect fight. And Stipe wasn't as fast as he is now, as agile as he is. Because Stipe only fought 3 times since the last time he fought Ngannou. He fought Ngannou and fought DC twice. No, 3 times. That's it. And in the span of those years since Ngannou had lost 3 years ago. So Ngannou, I do think he made a lot of improvement in his game. I still feel he's still a little bit raw in some aspects, but as far as like the necessary improvement that he made to be able to like combat like wrestlers and combat guys who try to like wear him out, I do feel that he made those adjustments. It's just that, like Malik said, we didn't get to see it because he's knocking everybody out in the first round. But Stipe is a very crafty and very smart fighter, so I don't think it's going to be as easy as Ngannou had when he fought Rosenstrike, when he fought, like, you know, JDS, when he fought, you know, Cain Velasquez, when he fought, you know, I mean, what's his face, Curtis Blades. Like, those guys, they are the top guys, but it's not going to be as easy. Stipe is very elusive. He knows how to mix it up. Very tough, very gritty, got a good chin. But like Malik said, all Ngannou needs to do is hit him clean. And that's it. And I feel the first fight, Ngannou was still raw. He was just knocking everybody out. He was getting hyped. You know, people were just talking about, oh, Ngannou. And like, he just felt he was going to go in there and knock out Stipe. Because like, when you got that eraser, you know what I mean? You can go in there and swing crazy. Because even when he knocked out Rosenstrike, he was just kind of like throwing these like kind of like crazy combinations. Looked a little bit sloppy. But once he connected on Rosenstrike's jaw, he knocked him clean out. So it's just a matter of him being patient, like he said he is a shorter octagon, and hopefully he'll catch him, and we might be witnessing a new champion. But I do think if it goes to later rounds, and depending on how Ngannou he paces himself and how he actually goes dealing with the wrestling, dealing with the grappling, dealing with the dirty boxing, dealing with that pressure, we'll see. But the last fight we saw with Israel Adesanya and Jan Blachowicz, we saw that weight and size does play a factor. Stipe came in there 233 or 234, weighing in at 234, a lot leaner, a lot slimmer. And then Ngannou came in at 263. That's almost 30 pounds different. And you know, when they hydrate, they're going to be a little bit bigger. And I feel that it ain't going to be as easy to keep him down and take him down as he did the first fight, especially if Ngannou worked on his conditioning and not being tired. And I did hear that he was working on some stuff as far as jiu-jitsu and wrestling. And he also has Kamaru Usman in his corner tonight. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens, and may the best man win. I'm trying to like teach myself not to go in these fights as emotional as I used to, like wanting a certain guy to win, and then when they lose, like my freaking evening is ruined, and like I don't want to even think about it. But may the best man win, and I'm picking Ngannou. So I think we pretty much all have the same, you know, feel as to who we want to win and who we think will win. So yeah, I mean, if y'all got anything y'all want to talk about and just add to that, we can do that, or we can just get ready to watch these fights.
I know one thing. I know John Jones said he's going to probably fight the winner of the main event tonight, later in the year in the fall, more than likely. So that would be a good thing
Yeah,
to look
that could
forward
be
to.
interesting. I mean, I don't see that happening as far as Stipe beating John Jones, but if he wins, but it's possible. And I know for him, for his legacy, then people probably put him up there as potentially the greatest. So I think that's why that's probably what he would want. He would want to win this one and probably fight John Jones, and then he might retire after that. Who
Yeah.
knows? But either way, I think whoever John Jones fights, you know, if he does, you know, definitely move up in the UFC books, that fight, I think is going to be a hard fight, an interesting fight. And it's also going to be a legacy fight for John Jones. So, I mean, I think it'll be interesting no matter what happens. But yeah, we'll see. The first step is, you know, tonight.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, the whole John Jones thing looming in the background. I look, and I know, who am I to say that? And I mean, I've seen John Jones in person before. He is a tall guy. He does look kind of like a bigger frame. Like, people look at me, and I'm a big guy, you know what I mean? And I don't really looking at myself as being like some massive force. But when I really do look at myself in like pictures and sometimes even like videos or something like that, I'm like, yo, I'm kind of big, you know what I'm saying? As far as like my size, I weigh more than Ngannou, you know what I'm saying? And he taller than me by 2 inches. But at the end of the day, I say all that to say is that sometimes, I get in my head, I'm like, nah, I don't think John Jones will stand a chance against like a Stipe, not Stipe like like a Francis, but not stand a chance, but like, when you look at the power when you get hit. But like I said, if you know how to roll with punches, you can take a hit, you can block most of that energy, and the type of wrestling skill that John Jones have, and a lot of people said who fought him, like how strong he is. And I seen DC as being as short and stubby as he is, beating up other heavyweights and winning. I do believe that it is possible for John to do his thing. I do think that Stipe will probably be an easier fight for John because
I
they'll
feel the
probably
same.
be around the same weight as far as being a heavyweight, as far as like, John Jones probably he weighing like 260 now. Even if he would have trained and he do train and leaned out to like maybe 240, 230, he's around the same weight as Stipe. Whereas if he fight at Ngannou, that's 260 something pounds of muscle. Like the guys look super lean. Like he was about the same weight the last time he fought 3 years ago when he fought Stipe, but he could see he noticeably more leaner now. Like he's eating better, he's healthier now, he's more into the gym and have more cardio, so you can see that it's a difference. So I believe that that fight with Ngannou will be a lot more difficult because Ngannou is getting better. Ngannou is super strong, and if Ngannou touches anybody in the chin, they're going to
that's
sleep.
the thing too with John, because like he showed grit and other stuff, but he never really had to face that big boy power that
Yeah, man.
Ngannou got. So that would be, once again, like I said even earlier, Ngannou against anyone on the earth. If he if he has a shot, because all he got to do is land one of his shots and somebody going to sleep. So even in the John Jones case, I think John is smart. He would try to tire him out somehow or be safe in the beginning until some of that power is diminished, but you never know. And even then, it's like, all it takes is getting caught one time. So I think it will be a tough fight for John as well, regardless of, who he fights. But I agree. I think Ngannou will probably be the more dangerous. But John, once again, it's not a knock on Stipe, because Stipe is versatile. He's legit and he's big too. But I think with, Stipe's game planning kind of style and, his IQ, John's IQ is very high as well. And he's very good at making adjustments and dealing with threats that people might possess.
Yeah.
So, I do think that Ngannou will probably be a little harder fight for John.
Yeah, I agree.
Draw money-wise, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, too.
Pay-per-view sales.
Yeah, I mean, they tried to do the same thing before, like when they was talking about it before, when Ngannou didn't get the title shot. But then it was like, it makes more sense. And John wanted to do it the right way. He didn't just want to just come up there. He wanted to like really put on muscle, get stronger, and feel that strength. And now he's trying to train back in MMA and see if he can get back his skill set. Because you do get rusty after time. All he was doing was lifting weights and shooting guns and stuff like that, and training his dog. So, but to Malik's point, I agree with him. I think with Ngannou is like, even though we know John got the advantage in jiu-jitsu, we know John got the advantage in wrestling, we know John might have the advantage in IQ, but when it comes to striking, John might be a little bit more technical when it comes to certain things and mix it up a little bit more. But when it comes to power, John don't got that power like Ngannou. And when you have power like that, and Ngannou has skill sets, he's not a slouch. He's not like a one-hit wonder, or he just throw like haymakers. Like the guy can box and throw hands. Once he touches John, you know what I'm saying, he can get hurt. Because John is not not a guy who's not been touched. Like he got hit in most of his fights. He fought DC. DC caught him a couple of times. He fought, other big power hitters and got caught. Like he fought Glover. He fought Rampage. I mean, he kind of like nullified Rampage with his distance, but he fought certain guys and got caught. You know what I'm saying? And Dominic Reyes caught him clean. You know what I mean? So it's like if Ngannou catches him that same way, I do feel that John will go nightly. And I do want to see John, win the belt. And I do want him to have that, double champ thing and had a championship up there. But do I feel that when I look at people like the other guys in heavyweight, I just think I'm just looking at it from the perspective of like the weight class, and not looking at it from the perspective of like, look, these guys are big individuals. Like I said, like I might stand next to Ngannou and not even be that much smaller than Ngannou, but because I see him on TV and HD 4K making him look like he's a freaking superhero, you know what I'm saying? It might not even be that serious, you know what I'm saying? It's just that he's a professional fighter, I'm not. So at the end of the day, I have to look at it from that perspective. These guys are fighters, they're professional, and as a fighter, you want that challenge. As a fighter, you're going to try to go up there and do what you got to do. Look at what you know, Israel did with Jan. Like, he was piecing up Jan. You know, yeah, he didn't knock him out, but he did hurt him. You know what I mean? And you know, but Jan used his size against him, and it's like that's the only caveat to that. But when you have somebody like an Ngannou who's knocking cats, I'm talking about top tier guys. Like, his last few fights that he fought all ended in the first round. So it's like, I think it's a total like maybe 2 minutes total. You know what I'm saying? And when you catching people like that, it's like, yo, man, I don't care how nice you are, man, you gonna get caught. You gonna get hit. You know what I'm saying? Just how you take the hit and how clean the hit is. So we'll see what happens, man. But with that being said, I mean, we're gonna wrap it because we're probably gonna meet up again tomorrow and give our reaction to the results of the fights. Whether we got a clean sweep, you know, 3 for 3 for all of us, or you know, give our critiques on what happened. And then we're also going to talk about, you know, some basketball stuff tomorrow as well. But I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. I want to thank Hollister and Malik for joining me this evening. Unfortunately, like I said, Tom couldn't make it. But please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Please, you know, comment. Let us know what's going on. Let us know what you think about the topics we're talking about. Let us know the time frame. Do you guys like the shorter ones? Do you guys like the longer ones? Pause. You know what I'm saying? Depending on the topic. I mean, Hollister told us that we're working on a collab with somebody that he knows, and we're going to be on their podcast, and we're going to split the podcast together with them and have some interesting topics to talk about. So that should be coming out soon. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your evening. Watch the fights if you can. Enjoy your family. Be safe. Honey.